Do I hear a motion that the board approve the recommendations of the district instructional materials adoption committees as district adopted instructional materials?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve the recommendations of the district instructional materials adoption committees as district adopted instructional materials for 2021-2022, mathematics grade 9 through 12, health grades 6 through 8, health grades 9 through 12, science grades 9 through 12, social study grades 9 through 12, and career and technology education.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Ms. Gaskins?
Okay, so these texts were selected from the approved list from the South Carolina Department of Education. A committee of teachers that represent our schools in the content areas for each text were gathered to review the materials, and the recommendations that are presented for approval are from those committees. As always, just as a reminder, this is based on whether these materials are funded.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Gaskins on this item?
I have a couple of questions. This is Jada. So where it says the administration reviewed the request and found it to be in compliance with board policy, has this been brought to the board in the past?
It's in line with policy IJJ, the textbook adoption policy.
Okay. I just don't recall, since I've been on here and in the past few years, that these were brought. I mean, this is great. I appreciate it. I was just curious where that was in policy. I know Kathy's not here. I spoke with her a couple of days ago, and I know she had a couple of questions. I wish I had written those down. I thought she was going to be here. But I know one of those questions was about the math curriculum, and she says that there is, one of these has a more current edition than what we're currently adopting, and it comes with a My Math lab.
I will be happy to check on that if she doesn't mind following up with me to let me know which text it is. This is based on the list we were provided by the state, so I'm not sure if the more current edition was on that list, but I'll be happy to follow up if she doesn't mind letting me know which course.
Okay. Yeah, because she knew the year. I think there's one that's quite a few years newer than what's being recommended on here. Let's see here. And so I'm just curious, I guess, Dr. Little, this is a question for you. So since this committee actually reports to the board, and we vote on the recommendations, is this not considered a public committee?
The policy states that it's a committee of teachers.
Right. So it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's board members or not. It's my understanding through FOIA that if there's a committee that reports to the board and the board takes action based on their recommendations, that that's a public committee. Okay. Also, we have another policy, BDBD, that says the district will encourage students to participate in curriculum evaluation. And Ms. Gaskins, I know you're new, but do you know if that took place here, or if that's going to take place?
Based on the committees that I have, there were not students on the committees. I do know that we followed the textbook adoption policy, which was, required the committee of teachers. I do not think students were on this committee. But I will take a look at that policy as we move forward with this process and make sure that we're aware of what needs to take place.
Okay, thank you. I mean, based on what we have here, we know, like I said, I wish Kathy were here. We know that there's at least one book in here that is newer, that comes with, I guess, a subscription to My Math Lab. And we don't know if this committee is supposed to be public or not. I mean, based on that, I'd be a little hesitant to approve this request until we get some clarification, but I guess that's left up to the board.
And it may be that the newer textbook, that the recommendation list from the State Department preceded the publication of the newer book. I mean, that's very possible. That's something that's kind of out of our hands. I know that the committee probably just works from the recommendations, because we can't vary from what they,
Right, and the whole cycle is a little off of its timeline right now. So we're behind quite a few years on a number of these adoptions anyway, but then because of COVID, the cycle got thrown off even a little more. Typically, we bring this to you in like March or April of each year. Is when you approve, we're able to go ahead and begin ordering the materials that have been funded. So this is a little bit of a time-sensitive issue if you're able to approve it for those adoptions that have been funded.
so these are materials that will be implemented when school starts in August.
As long as they're funded, and a couple of these have been.
Okay, so if we have approved these, I mean, I don't want to hold up any kind of instructional material for students. Is there a way, once Kathy follows up with you, that you can get back with us and say, okay, we checked on this and,
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. I'll look into both of your concerns and follow up.
okay, thank you.
And I think maybe going forward, in light of the policy about the Instructional Materials Committee being a board-appointed committee, technically a board-appointed committee, I think that may be something that we can make sure in the future that is conducted according to our, Dr. Little has already made a note of that. Thank you very much. All right. Board members, are there any other questions for Ms. Gaskins? All right. Okay. Do we have a motion and a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries.